Long before the rise of modern civilization, when the Earth pulsed with untamed energies and the stars were revered as portals to the divine, ancient modern humans walked not alone, but beside beings from beyond the stars. These visitors, the Anunnaki among them, did not merely observe. They intertwined their fate with humanity's, guiding, shaping, and even altering the very essence of what it meant to be human. Their knowledge was vast, their presence immense, seen as gods, mentors, and at times rulers. It was in these forgotten epochs that the first great civilizations were born, not from slow, primitive advancement, but from sudden, inexplicable leaps in knowledge and technology. Atlantis and Lemuria were more than myths. They were centers of this cosmic union. Crystalline towers hummed with energy drawn from the planet's core, while flying machines soared through the skies, powered by technology that rivaled our own. Under shimmering domes, wise men and star beings worked side by side, blending terrestrial elements with cosmic materials. The Anunnaki, hailing from the mysterious planet Nibiru, were not alone in these interactions. The Pleiadians brought their deep spiritual wisdom, the Arcturians offered healing frequencies, and the Lyrans, long since scarred by interstellar conflict, gifted ancient memory. Together, these celestial races contributed to what would become the Adamic human, a hybrid of earth and stars, body and light. Early humans, once primitive, became stewards of forgotten sciences, keepers of universal knowledge. In the luminous temples of Atlantis, encoded with sacred geometry, the firestone, an ancient power source, was harnessed. Its energy was neither electricity nor flame, but something in between, alive and sentient. It powered cities, healed the sick, and allowed instantaneous communication across vast distances. Meanwhile, in the forests and crystalline mountains of Lemuria, a culture of harmony flourished, its people living in unity with both Earth and their celestial ancestors. But this golden age was not without shadows. Not all extraterrestrial visitors had peaceful intentions. A rift formed. Some believed humanity should be free. Others saw them as a resource, a workforce. The harmony that once defined this cosmic partnership began to unravel. Jealousy, fear, and hunger for control gave birth to ancient wars, the echoes of which still reverberate in our myths of gods battling in the heavens. These civilizations did not fall by accident. Cataclysmic events, some natural, others triggered by advanced technology, brought Atlantis and Lemuria to their knees. The seas rose, the skies burned. The knowledge was lost, scattered across time, hidden in ancient texts, buried beneath pyramids, encoded in stone. But whispers remain, in dreams, in visions, in sacred texts passed through generations. Today, remnants of this forgotten era resurface, strange artifacts unearthed, hidden temples rediscovered, forgotten languages beginning to be understood, and always the stars calling us to remember who we once were, not children of Earth alone, but descendants of the stars, born of a cosmic convergence far older than history dares to record. The creation of the Adamic humans was a joint effort. The Anunnaki used their advanced genetic science to merge their own DNA with the evolving primates of Earth, forming the first true humans. But they did not work alone. 12 different extraterrestrial civilizations contributed their genetic codes to this new species. Each of these extraterrestrial races imprinted their unique traits, enhancing humanity with a vast range of attributes: intelligence, strength, intuition, creativity, and wisdom. The 12 extraterrestrial civilizations, each from a distant star system, left their mark on humanity. From the Pleiadians, humanity inherited spiritual awareness and intuitive insight. The Arcturians contributed their advanced healing capabilities, while the Lyrans imbued humans with creativity and a deep connection to the cosmos. Other civilizations, including those from Sirius and Lyra, added their own strengths, traits that would shape humanity's destiny on Earth. The 12 tribes of Israel, as described in ancient texts, represent these 12 extraterrestrial origins. Each tribe carries the genetic legacy of one of these star systems. They embody the attributes and characteristics bestowed upon them by the extraterrestrial civilizations. And the legends of the 12 tribes mirror the divine origins of humanity itself. The connection between the tribes and their cosmic ancestors is not merely symbolic. It is a spiritual lineage, a reminder of humanity's connection to the stars. As the centuries passed, humanity's development continued under the watchful eyes of the Anunnaki and their allies. But their influence was not always direct. The gods, as the ancient texts described them, withdrew, allowing humanity to grow and evolve on its own. Yet the blueprint of the Anunnaki remained imprinted in human genetics, a silent guide, pushing humanity toward enlightenment and knowledge. Before the dawn of recorded time, long before the wheel or the fire, Earth was already a stage in a cosmic experiment, an open canvas upon which the stars painted their legacy. It was not natural evolution alone that sculpted the early human species. Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and others were not the sole products of terrestrial biology, but living blueprints shaped by hands that did not belong to this world. The Earth was visited over and over again by races whose origins lay in distant constellations, each bringing their unique vision for life on this planet. The Arcturians, masters of vibrational intelligence, arrived first, their craft appearing like glimmers of thought across the sky. With sound and frequency, they manipulated the energies of early hominids, triggering dormant potentials buried in ancient DNA. They believed in harmony, in refining form through frequency. Then came the Pleiadians, gentle and radiant, who viewed humanity not as a tool, but as a mirror. They infused early beings with a sense of higher consciousness, the seeds of empathy and imagination. It was they who first whispered dreams into the minds of primitives, gifting the spark of soul. The Lyrans came from a different place, a race touched by cosmic war and ancient sorrow. Their intervention was more calculated, driven by the memory of what had been lost in their own collapse. They imbued Homo erectus with strength, resilience, and the capacity to learn through struggle. The Lyran touch embedded a drive to survive, to evolve, to question the stars themselves. But it was the arrival of the Nibirian royals that changed everything. From the distant and hidden planet of Nibiru, the Anunnaki came, tall, imposing, and regal in bearing. They did not come to observe. They came to rule. Their mission was resource-based: gold, energy, influence. But in order to fulfill it, they needed labor, intelligent, capable, and obedient. They looked upon the Earth and its inhabitants, crude yet brimming with potential, and set to work. Genetic manipulation became their divine tool. They took what the Arcturians, Pleiadians, and Lyrans had started and made it their own. The Nibirian scientists, guided by royal decree, entered the genome itself, stitching together fragments of celestial and terrestrial code. The result was the Adamic human, neither fully divine nor entirely of Earth, a hybrid, a servant, but also, unknowingly, a key to cosmic balance. The Anunnaki placed them in sacred zones, temples of learning and labor, Edenic sites hidden from the eyes of time. Here, humanity was tested, shaped, refined like living clay, molded by the hands of star gods. Yet something unexpected awakened in this new being, consciousness beyond its design. The Adamic humans began to question, to feel, to wonder. The spark had caught fire, and even the Anunnaki could not contain it. This was not just the rise of a species, it was the birth of a mystery that still lingers. What truly lies in our blood is not only carbon and water, but memory of stars, of craft, of voices not spoken in any earthly tongue. And perhaps, even now, they watch, waiting to see if their final creation will remember what it was always meant to be. Beneath the dense emerald canopy of the Amazon, hidden from time and conquest, whispers echo of a forgotten truth. one that predates even the oldest human empires. It is here, among ancient stone structures and sacred caverns, that the Chronicles of Akakor first came to light. Preserved by the Uga Mongolala tribe and passed down through generations, these chronicles speak of gods who descended from the skies, cities carved in gold, and a war so vast and devastating it reshaped the face of the earth. According to these sacred texts, there once existed two magnificent continents, Lemuria and Atlantis. Their glory was unmatched. Towering temples of crystal, machines that defied gravity, and knowledge that reached beyond the stars defined their civilizations. They were not mere humans who built them. These cities were the result of direct collaboration between humanity and star beings, beings with the power to mold matter, bend time, and communicate across dimensions. Peace reigned, but only for a time. The Anunnaki, revered and feared, had established their presence in both realms. Alongside them were others, beings from Sirius, Orion, and the Pleiades. Each brought their wisdom, their technology, and their visions of Earth's destiny. But as power accumulated, so did division. What began as philosophical disagreements soon escalated into suspicion and then open conflict. The Chronicles of Akakor speak of a day when the sun refused to rise and the four corners of the earth turned red with fire. It was no metaphor. The skies burned with light not from the heavens, but from weapons, nuclear, cosmic, beyond comprehension. Lemuria, once a haven of spiritual unity and natural balance, was struck first. Its domes shattered, oceans swallowed its cities, and fire scorched its forests. Then came Atlantis, whose pride and power had grown too bold. Its energy sources destabilized, the firestone overcharged, and a chain reaction tore through its crystalline heart. What remained was silence. Vast continents disappeared beneath the waves. Ash filled the skies for centuries. The survivors, few in number, fled underground, to the mountains or to the stars. The balance had been broken. The gods had gone to war, and Earth bore the scars. Yet the Akakor texts hint at something deeper, a betrayal. A faction of the Anunnaki had warned against the use of such destructive power, while others pursued domination at any cost. The war was not only of fire, but of ideals. The future of humanity hung in the balance, and in the end, it was nearly lost. And so, the knowledge was hidden, cities buried, records encoded in myth, temples swallowed by jungle and sea. But the earth remembers. In dreams, in symbols, in forgotten languages, the truth persists. The Chronicles of Akakor remain as a warning, a memory etched into time. We are not the first civilization to rise, and if we ignore the lessons buried in these ancient wars, we may not be the last to fall. Long before kings wore crowns or pyramids pierced the sky, a presence walked the earth, majestic, powerful, and unlike anything born of this world. They were the Anunnaki, not gods in the spiritual sense, but advanced beings from a distant world, orbiting a dark star hidden deep in our solar system, Nibiru. Their arrival was not sudden. It was calculated, timed with celestial alignments, as if the universe itself had opened a door for them to step through. The Anunnaki came not as explorers, but as engineers of life. Earth, with its abundance of gold and natural resources, was a treasure to be harvested. But mining in the ancient world was not a task they intended to perform themselves. Instead, they looked upon the early hominids, primitive, wild, but full of dormant potential, and saw an opportunity. What followed was not evolution, but intervention. Through a process far beyond modern science, the Anunnaki manipulated the DNA of Homo erectus, inserting strands of their own genetic material to create a new species, a hybrid born of Earth and the stars. The result was the Adamic human, strong, intelligent, and above all obedient. This was the true genesis, an origin story veiled in myth, distorted into parables, and eventually buried beneath religious doctrine. The Sumerians, who called the Anunnaki by name, left behind detailed accounts on clay tablets, fragments of a story too vast and too dangerous to be fully told. They spoke of Enki, the scientist and geneticist who nurtured humanity with wisdom and compassion, and of Enlil, the stern overseer who saw humans only as tools, destined to serve. Under Enlil's rule, humans were corralled into labor camps, forced to mine, build, and obey. Entire cities rose at the command of the gods, Eridu, Uruk, Babylon, each a node in a greater network of control. But the human spirit, even in its engineered form, proved unpredictable. Curiosity grew, consciousness expanded. Some began to question, to feel, to dream. This was never part of the design, and so the Anunnaki turned to harsher methods, punishment, division, and manipulation of language and culture. They created rulers in their image, divine kings and priesthoods to carry out their will. The myth of divine right was born not as a metaphor, but as a literal bloodline of hybrid beings, part god, part man. Enki, ever the rebel, sought to protect his creation. In secret, he passed down knowledge about healing, stars, and sacred geometry. He whispered of their true origins, embedding the truth in symbols, temples, and DNA itself. Humanity had become more than a servant. It had become a vessel of potential, and that frightened the gods. Eventually, as Earth's energies shifted and the age of the Anunnaki waned, they withdrew. Some returned to Nibiru, others faded into legend. But their influence never left. It lingers in our myths, in our blood, in the unexplainable leaps of technology and knowledge that punctuate history. We were not merely born, we were made, and those who made us may one day return. In the quiet trance of sleep, one man saw further than the eyes could reach. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, spoke in whispers from the other side, his words channeled from a realm beyond time. In hundreds of sessions, he described visions so vivid, so detailed, that even modern minds struggle to dismiss them. Among his most powerful revelations was the memory of a lost world, Atlantis, a civilization not of myth, but of memory. Cayce described Atlantis as a vast continent, advanced far beyond anything known in ancient history. It was a place of beauty and brilliance, a nexus of science and spirit. Towering temples shimmered with energy, and skies were filled with silent craft that glided effortlessly across the horizon. The secret to their power, Cayce revealed, lay within a mysterious object known as the Firestone. The Firestone was not fire as we know it. It was a concentrated energy source, a crystalline device attuned to cosmic frequencies. Cayce spoke of a great domed structure where the Firestone was housed, a kind of ancient power station. Using prisms and mirrors, the Atlanteans channeled solar and cosmic energies through the stone, generating forces that could heal the body, power cities, and move vehicles across land, sea, and air without combustion. It was not merely technology. It was consciousness made visible, energy shaped by thought, by alignment, by intention. Through Cayce's visions, the Firestone was said to emit rays invisible to the eye, yet strong enough to power vast transportation systems. It was the lifeblood of Atlantis, a gift from the stars, or perhaps a remnant of alien intervention. But power breeds ambition, and ambition, when unchecked, becomes destruction. The misuse of the Firestone's immense energy led to a series of catastrophes. The great continent fractured, civilizations were swallowed by the ocean, and the once balanced energy grid became unstable. Cayce described 3 great destructions of Atlantis, each one more severe than the last. The final cataclysm, he said, occurred around 10,000 BCE, when Atlantis disappeared beneath the sea. Yet Cayce didn't stop there. He also predicted that remnants of Atlantis would re-emerge, and pointed to one location with remarkable precision: the waters near Bimini in the Bahamas. In 1939, he said that parts of Atlantis would begin to rise again. And nearly 3 decades later, in 1968, divers discovered a strange underwater formation, straight, flat stones laid out like a road. The Bimini Road. Its shape, size, and deliberate alignment sparked questions the modern world still struggles to answer. Was it a natural formation, or a remnant of a forgotten city? Cayce believed Bimini held the key. He spoke of hidden temples, buried archives, and technologies waiting to be rediscovered beneath the sands and coral. Perhaps, he said, Atlantis would rise again, not as land, but as knowledge, as memory. And if his visions were true, then somewhere beneath those quiet waves lies the whisper of an ancient power, waiting to awaken once more. Long before Earth bore the first breath of life, long before Atlantis and Lemuria rose from the oceans, there was Lyra, a shining constellation in the ancient galactic core, home to the first humanoid beings in our known universe. These Lyrans were tall, radiant, and wise, stewards of harmony, deeply connected to the cosmic source. Their civilization flourished for eons, crafting starships of light and cities made from resonance and frequency. They were creators, explorers, and architects of life. But peace is rarely eternal in a young universe. From the dark corners of space came the Draconians, beings of immense power, ancient and cold. Originating from a distant star system, their expansionist agenda brought them into conflict with the Lyrans. The Draconians saw the luminous, freedom-loving Lyrans as a threat to their dominion. What followed was a war of unimaginable scale. Entire star systems scorched, planets turned to ash. The peaceful colonies of Lyra fell, one by one, under the wrath of reptilian firepower. The destruction of Lyra shattered the great experiment of light. Many Lyrans fled to distant constellations, Vega, the Pleiades, Arcturus. Others went underground, hiding in temporal zones, shielding themselves from detection. The war altered the very fabric of life. Genetic disruptions rippled across space. Many humanoid lineages mutated, adapted, or perished. The balance had been broken. In the wake of this devastation, the Elohim and the Founders intervened. The Elohim, celestial architects, were not simply beings, but consciousness forms capable of building soul templates. With the Founders, who preserved the blueprint of divine evolution, they gathered what remained of the Lyran essence. From the ruins of war, they birthed a new generation of humanoids. Each race was designed with fragments of Lyran genetics, engineered to survive in harsh galactic environments and seeded across the stars. Among these children were the Arcturians, the Andromedans, the Syrians, and eventually humanity on Earth. But Earth was unique. It was chosen as a planet of learning, a living library where various galactic races could evolve through experience and forgetfulness. To truly grow, the souls had to forget who they were. To learn through contrast, they had to descend into the illusion of separation. So, a great veil was cast. Souls were sealed off from the higher realms, their memories buried deep beneath layers of time and trauma. Earth became a school, its pain, joy, and mystery designed to test and awaken. Each life a step toward remembrance, each generation carrying fragments of truth in symbols, myths, and dreams. And so the children of Lyra walk among us, unaware of their celestial heritage, carriers of forgotten wars, of ancient wisdom coded in DNA. The light of Lyra still shines in our eyes, inspired by beauty, by music, by freedom. But the echoes of the old war remain. In fear, in division, in the reptilian archetypes that still influence Earth's systems today. The question is not if we will remember who we are. As the great wars of the stars raged across the galaxy, fragments of peace sought sanctuary. From the broken remnants of Lyra and Vega, many advanced soul groups journeyed towards Sirius, a trinary star system glowing with potential and untouched by the spreading reptilian darkness. Of its 3 stars, Sirius B, a blue-white beacon, became a sacred refuge. It was here that a new chapter in galactic evolution quietly began. The first to arrive were the etheric Syrians, also known as the Anunnaki. These beings existed not in dense physical form, but in light and vibration. Tall, feline, humanoid, and graceful, the Anunnaki served as guardians of divine knowledge and stewards of the original Christos blueprint, the sacred code of creation gifted by the Elohim and the founders. They carried within them the high-frequency templates of the Lyran race, unbroken, uncorrupted, and pure. Their mission was to anchor light in a chaotic galaxy, to keep the memory of Source alive. Soon other Syrian races emerged, adapted to the physical plane. Among them were the peaceful, physical Syrians, humanoid in appearance, deeply spiritual, and devoted to healing, planetary stewardship, and balance. These beings built crystalline cities, mastered sonic technologies, and held sacred the laws of resonance. They too aligned with the Anunnaki, honoring the original teachings while grounding them into matter. But not all Syrians chose harmony. From complex interbreeding programs and fractured alliances, a hybrid group began to rise, the Anunnaki. These were the Syrian-Nibirian hybrids. While they retained many of the Anunnaki's gifts, they also inherited traits from other interstellar sources, including the rebellious energies of fallen factions. Over time, they became the Nibirians, powerful, ambitious, technologically advanced. It was from this bloodline that the Anunnaki would later emerge. As the Syrian system flourished, reptilian forces, especially the draconian collectives, began to infiltrate. Their aim was subtle at first: infiltration through genetics, manipulation through frequency, and corruption through power. They offered knowledge with a price, twisting the sacred blueprints into tools of control. The once harmonious Syrian races began to splinter. Conflicts erupted. Some Anunnaki aligned with the reptilian agenda, drawn by promises of galactic domination. Others resisted, clinging to the purity of their Lyran heritage. The spiritual Syrians watched in sorrow as their once unified system became a battleground of ideologies between service to others and service to self. As the interference deepened, entire groups were forced to relocate. The Anunnaki withdrew to higher dimensional enclaves, veiling themselves from detection. The peaceful Syrians spread across the galaxy, some toward the Pleiades, others to Arcturus, and a chosen few to Earth. Earth became the new stage. The Nibirians, seeking dominance, would later return to Earth and shape its destiny through the Anunnaki legacy. But hidden beneath that legacy remained the original Syrian seed, the memory of harmony, of unity, of balance between light and form. Today, fragments of these ancient Syrian lineages walk among us. They dream in symbols, speak in frequencies, and awaken through synchronicities. Their mission is far from over, because the story of Sirius is the story of us. In the dawn of the galactic age, before the birth of our solar system, there was Tiamat, an ancient thriving planet rich with life and beauty. Its surface shimmered with lush jungles, vast oceans, and vibrant ecosystems. Tiamat was a sanctuary of peace, a cradle for early forms of life, an Eden where various races of beings lived in harmony. It was a world of balance, a place where divine order flowed freely through its veins, governed by the great Queen Tiamat, who stood as the embodiment of wisdom, creation, and universal law. But such peace rarely lasts in a universe where chaos is ever hungry. Tiamat's downfall began with the arrival of the Draconians. They were an ancient reptilian race ruled by Ahriman, also known by many names: Yaldabaoth, Lucifer, or the Dark One. Ahriman was not just a leader, but a force of primal chaos, embodying the very principles of destruction, control, and domination. His desire to conquer, to consume and subjugate had no bounds. The Draconians, fierce and relentless, followed Ahriman's every command, their forces sweeping across the stars like a storm. Their arrival on Tiamat signaled the beginning of the end. The Draconians, with their sharp, cold logic and overpowering will, sought to bend the natural laws of creation to their own desires. The peaceful world of Tiamat was a target. Ahriman's plan was simple: strip the planet of its resources, corrupt its life force, and transform it into a weapon, a vessel to carry his reign of terror across the galaxy. Under his command, the Draconians began a systematic campaign of annihilation. The once pristine planet was torn apart, its vibrant ecosystems ravaged by violence, its oceans poisoned by dark energy. Queen Tiamat, the heart of the planet, fought valiantly to protect her world. She called upon her allies, the celestial guardians of harmony, and summoned ancient forces of creation to combat the advancing darkness. But Ahriman's power was too great. He wielded the destructive forces of entropy, bending reality itself to his will. As Tiamat's defenses crumbled, Queen Tiamat made one final, desperate stand. In her last moments, she summoned the full might of her essence to safeguard what remained of her planet, hoping to take Ahriman down with her. But the Draconians were ruthless, and they succeeded in striking the final blow. The great planet of Tiamat was torn apart in a cataclysmic explosion, a supernova that shattered its core and scattered its debris across the cosmos. From the ashes of Tiamat, the Draconians rose to power. They claimed the remains of the planet as their own, forging a dark empire that spanned across galaxies. Under Ahriman's rule, the Draconians would become the architects of chaos, spreading corruption and control wherever they went. The destruction of Tiamat was not just a physical event, it was a spiritual catastrophe. It marked the birth of a new era, one of darkness, separation, and suffering. The once unified forces of creation were fractured, and the Draconians, led by their dark god, sought to impose their will upon the universe. But in the wake of Tiamat's fall, the seeds of resistance were sown. The light of Queen Tiamat's wisdom was not entirely extinguished. Her legacy would live on, carried by those who would rise to challenge the tyranny of the Draconians. And though the universe may have been plunged into chaos, the hope of balance and restoration remained, hidden deep within the hearts of the stars. In the ancient days, Earth was not a barren world, but a living canvas, awaiting the touch of higher beings. It was the Anunnaki who took on the sacred task of seeding this planet with life, infusing it with a diversity of species and a lineage that would eventually evolve into humanity. But the story of Earth's creation is far more intricate than a mere biological evolution. The Earth was a living experiment, a fusion of divine intelligence and cosmic engineering, an endeavor conducted by multiple extraterrestrial races. The Anunnaki were at the helm, but they were not alone. Various races of higher beings, including the Pleiadians, Arcturians, and Lyrans, contributed their advanced DNA, shaping the very foundation of life on Earth. These beings were not merely gods in the sense that ancient humans understood them. They were celestial architects, beings of vast wisdom, possessing knowledge of genetics, energy, and the very fabric of existence. The first step was to seed Earth with the flora and fauna necessary to sustain life. The Anunnaki, along with their allies, planted not just the seeds of terrestrial plants, but also the essence of animals that would roam the planet. From the towering mammoths to the smallest insects, life was meticulously designed to create a balanced ecosystem. But it didn't end there. The Anunnaki had a greater vision for Earth, a vision that would culminate in the creation of intelligent beings capable of carrying the wisdom of the stars. From the ashes of Maldec, a shattered planet once located between Mars and Jupiter, came the souls destined to inhabit the bodies of Earth's new inhabitants. These souls, remnants of a once great civilization, were given the opportunity to reincarnate on Earth, their essence infusing the early humanoid beings. These souls brought with them a collective memory of their former lives, a divine spark of intelligence and creativity that would help guide humanity's evolution. Lemuria, an ancient civilization that existed long before recorded history, was a world of extraordinary beauty and serenity. Often described as a verdant paradise, this lost land was not just a place of breathtaking landscapes, but a beacon of spiritual and technological achievement. The Lemurians, a highly advanced race of beings, lived in perfect harmony with their environment, crafting a society built on peace, wisdom, and a deep connection to nature. The land of Lemuria was a lush, vibrant realm, filled with towering forests, crystal-clear rivers, and expansive oceans teeming with life. The air was thick with the scent of exotic flowers, and the sky was always bathed in a soft golden light, creating an atmosphere of tranquility and balance. The landscape itself seemed to breathe with life, as if the land itself was alive and attuned to the frequencies of the cosmos. At the heart of Lemuria were its crystalline temples, structures of pure beauty and advanced design. These temples were not just architectural marvels, they were centers of spiritual power, built to harness and amplify the harmonic frequencies that resonated throughout the land. The Lemurians had an intimate understanding of these frequencies, using them to heal, communicate, and elevate their consciousness. The temples themselves were constructed from radiant crystals that glowed with an otherworldly energy, reflecting the Lemurians' deep connection to the universe. The Lemurians' understanding of sound and frequency was beyond anything we can imagine today. They had developed technology that allowed them to harness the natural vibrations of the earth, using it to power their cities, heal their bodies, and transcend the limitations of the physical world. The frequencies they worked with were not just vibrations in the air. They were the very fabric of existence, the building blocks of reality itself. These harmonic frequencies were used to align the minds and bodies of the Lemurians, fostering unity, peace, and spiritual growth. Through the use of sound and resonance, the Lemurians were able to communicate telepathically, access higher realms of consciousness, and even manipulate matter itself. This civilization had a profound bond with nature. The Lemurians were not conquerors of their environment, but stewards. They understood the intricate web of life that connected all beings, and they lived in complete harmony with the natural world. They communicated with the plants and animals, and every element of their culture reflected this deep respect for the earth. Their cities were built in harmony with the land, blending seamlessly into the environment, and they used natural materials in their constructions, ensuring that their impact on the planet was minimal. The Lemurians also possessed a deep spiritual wisdom that guided every aspect of their lives. They were aware of the interconnectedness of all things and understood the balance between the physical and spiritual realms. Their society was founded on principles of love, compassion, and unity, with an emphasis on spiritual enlightenment and personal growth. The Lemurians were not just a physically advanced civilization. They were a spiritually enlightened people, devoted to the pursuit of higher knowledge and wisdom. In their time, Lemuria was a shining example of what humanity could achieve when it lived in harmony with the earth and the cosmos. The civilization thrived for thousands of years, creating a paradise where nature and technology coexisted in perfect balance. Unfortunately, as with all great civilizations, Lemuria eventually fell, its downfall shrouded in mystery. Some believe it was the result of cataclysmic events, while others say that the Lemurians simply ascended to a higher state of existence, leaving behind only traces of their wisdom and their paradise. Atlantis, the legendary island civilization that has captivated the imaginations of many, was a marvel of both architecture and advanced technology. Descriptions of this fabled land reveal a society that not only dominated the seas, but also thrived through a profound understanding of energy, science, and spirituality. Atlantis was not simply a city, it was a world unto itself, defined by its magnificent design, unique technological feats, and harmonious integration with the cosmos. The city of Atlantis was structured in a way that no other civilization had ever seen. It was composed of concentric rings of land and water, each ring perfectly designed to accommodate the needs of its inhabitants while ensuring a seamless flow of energy throughout the island. The rings were arranged around a central island, with each ring surrounded by water, creating an intricate pattern of islands that radiated outward. This geometric layout was not only beautiful but also functional, allowing for easy transportation, communication, and energy flow throughout the entire civilization. The rings of Atlantis were connected by vast bridges and waterways, with advanced boats and crystalline vehicles gliding effortlessly over the water. At the heart of the city stood the Grand Temple of Poseidon, a towering structure dedicated to the god of the sea. This temple was not just a place of worship, but a center of immense power, where the spiritual and scientific knowledge of Atlantis was concentrated. The Grand Temple was said to be made of gleaming white stone, its walls adorned with intricate carvings and symbols that told the story of Atlantis's origins, its rise to power, and its eventual downfall. Inside the temple, the Atlanteans had developed a technology that harnessed cosmic energy, using it to power their cities, heal their bodies, and even manipulate the elements. The temple was also the site of the famous Atlantean crystal, a powerful source of energy that fueled the island's advanced technology and allowed for the creation of incredible inventions. The Atlanteans were masters of energy manipulation, and their society was built around the use of advanced energy systems. They had developed a form of energy that was not reliant on combustion or physical resources, but instead harnessed the natural forces of the universe. This energy was used to power their cities, vehicles, and machines, enabling the Atlanteans to create a highly efficient and sustainable civilization. One of the most remarkable aspects of their technology was their crystalline vehicles, which were said to glide effortlessly through the air, land, and sea. These vehicles were powered by the same energy that fueled the city, and they could travel vast distances in a matter of hours, making Atlantis a truly global civilization. In addition to their vehicles, the Atlanteans also had advanced systems for communication and transportation. They used sound and light frequencies to transmit information, enabling them to connect with other parts of the world instantly. This technology was not just limited to communication, it was also used to manipulate the environment, control the weather, and even heal the sick. The Atlanteans were able to harness the power of the elements, using their knowledge of energy to maintain a delicate balance between nature and technology. However, despite their remarkable achievements, the Atlantean civilization was ultimately doomed. The very technology that had made Atlantis so powerful also played a role in its downfall. As their use of energy grew increasingly reckless, the Atlanteans destabilized the delicate balance they had achieved, leading to a catastrophic event that submerged the island beneath the waves. The destruction of Atlantis remains one of the greatest mysteries of all time, a tale of a civilization that reached the heights of technological and spiritual advancement, only to be lost to the depths of the ocean. Maldec, once a thriving planet located between Mars and Jupiter, was a world of great technological and spiritual sophistication. Its people, known as the Maldecians, were an advanced civilization that had mastered the sciences of the universe. However, their arrogance and misuse of this power led to their undoing. A catastrophic event, caused by a massive war between factions on Maldec, tore the planet apart, leaving only the asteroid belt in its place. This cataclysmic destruction of Maldec is not only an astronomical event, but also a key moment in the cosmic history of humanity and the extraterrestrial races. Before the destruction, Maldec was a world rich in resources and inhabited by a race of beings who had reached a level of advancement similar to the Atlanteans. However, their hunger for power and domination over the universe led them down a path of self-destruction. Factions on Maldec fought each other in a devastating war, using weapons that altered the very fabric of reality. The final blow came when a faction of Maldec's rulers unleashed a planetary-scale weapon that fractured the planet, sending it into oblivion. The destruction of Maldec sent ripples throughout the galaxy, influencing the destinies of neighboring worlds, including Mars and Earth. As the planet was destroyed, a few survivors managed to escape, fleeing to nearby worlds, including Mars and Earth. Among the refugees was a being known as Hanuman, a remarkable individual of Maldecian origin who would later become a significant figure in Earth's ancient history. Hanuman was not only a survivor of the destruction of Maldec, but also a symbol of resilience and transformation. After the cataclysm, he journeyed to Earth, seeking refuge among the burgeoning civilizations that were beginning to form on this new world. 87. Hanuman's journey to Earth was one of both physical and spiritual significance. As a Maldecian refugee, he carried with him the wisdom and knowledge of his home planet, which had been lost in the destruction. Upon arriving on Earth, Hanuman sought to share this knowledge with humanity, helping them to understand the deeper truths of the universe. In many ancient texts, Hanuman is portrayed as a divine figure, embodying strength, intelligence, and devotion. However, his true origin, tied to the destruction of Maldec, has often been overlooked in conventional historical narratives. Hanuman's journey to Earth was not only a physical migration, but also a spiritual one, as he brought with him the lessons learned from the fall of Maldec. His presence on Earth helped humanity to navigate the complex interplay of cosmic forces, offering insights into how to balance advanced technology with spiritual growth. The destruction of Maldec and the arrival of Hanuman on Earth serve as poignant reminders of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of maintaining harmony with the universe. The story of Maldec's fall is a cautionary tale, warning future civilizations of the consequences of arrogance and misuse of power. Hanuman, as a refugee and survivor, embodied the potential for redemption and transformation, offering humanity a chance to learn from the mistakes of the past and build a future that is both technologically advanced and spiritually aligned.